That might be it. Okay, remember to use my phone, please.
Remember that.
Sorry. Okay, so how are we doing with the book?
Did it go to your spam?
Yeah,
It just
what
asked
I'm
me this.
guessing is if I were to put words in your mouth, nothing earth-shatteringly new that I haven't seen before, but it's kind of refreshing and a good reminder, and maybe a thought or two pops up that you go, hey, that's a good idea. That sound right? Just better than the last two chapters?
The number four is my favorite. I was marking that up like crazy. I love four.
I saw Tulio this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is because I started to read the book today
Yeah,
because I don't have time to because I'm
right, no,
and right now
Because you sound really
I don't read yet the chapter 3 and 4, but I need.
oh, that's okay. I read the book on the airplane because I won't throw anything at you guys until I have at least, And ladies go, really? You read this? You still threw it that?
No, it's easy. I like.
Okay, and remember, raise on the. Okay. A couple of points that I felt here. Right off the top of book in chapter 3, and please jump in with anything. I don't want to lead all this or be the only one talking. He said he came home from work after his first 2 jobs and felt like he had to take a moral shower.
That's on page 2, isn't it? Yeah.
And I thought, oh
Yep.
my God. And do we know people in real estate that you come home from work and you go, wow, I have to watch them off of me because. Lynn's going, yeah. Any examples to share or any thoughts about that overall?
Can we use names?
No, no,
I
names.
think that's
No names. But there are. I mean, when they talked about creating urgency. Now, it's been a little different the last couple of years because things are so fast. But I remembered even in 2008 and 2009,
Yeah.
house has been on the market for 9 months.
Yeah.
And we were, oh, I just got another offer this morning. You
Right.
better jack that one up. And I'm going, really?
Yeah.
Has that happened to you guys?
Oh, yeah.
What do you do?
your buyer.
Yeah, just let them know.
Tell your buyer best and final.
Just tell
What-
my buyers that you don't know if you're bidding against yourself. So you have to do your best offer.
That's really good, but I have found that, and I tell my people, I don't care how long it's been on the market, if you're interested,
Your thingy's not on. I'm sorry, your red light's on. Button on the
No,
top.
she's on, she's on.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
The red button?
she's got a different one.
inevitably, somebody else is gonna be interested too. So when they say, do you really think there's another offer? I always say, if they say there is, I'm going to believe them, and we need to go with that.
Have you had other things that they've done to try to push you into a corner or that you feel might be a little less than ethical? What other kind of scams have you heard of?
Well, sit on the grievance committee for a minute. I mean, you see stuff that, wow, and to always give people the benefit of the doubt that was, they didn't know better or it was not intentional, but then you see the intentional ones. Like, wow.
I literally had a buyer who had a transaction broker ask me directly after the closing. So what did he really do for me? And Kathy will back me up on this at closing. He asked the most ridiculous questions. And months earlier, I had asked if he was a part-time agent. But then the buyer told me he was a transaction broker, which meant he could not advise them. And he certainly did nothing but follow when that closing was going to be.
Yeah, how many people show up closing? That's the only thing they do on the seller side or the.
Well, especially in new construction, good grief.
The best agents I have worked with, and there's only been 2 that do this, meet with their buyer once a month for a walkthrough.
Nice.
And I've heard other things about this one agent, but I gotta tell you, I was impressed with her and her buyers were loyal to her because she walked them through once a month so that they could have questions answered. And I was very impressed with the way she represented her buyers.
Genius.
So I highly recommend that when you're working with a new build.
So let me ask you another question, because my brain works differently. We're right now having a CMA contest, to see who sends out the most CMA.
Who's winning?
I haven't looked. But I will by the end of the day.
I'm losing.
Oh, I'm like,
That started last week.
It started yesterday. I thought I read somewhere it said it started on the fifth, so.
But it said on the new thing on the first. On the first, I read.
I on purpose didn't start mine till yesterday.
That's a great excuse.
For me, huh?
Well, I read the first.
On Mark, it said you're already gone.
Yeah.
Either way, I'll look it up, but let me ask you this question. Because my brain went down this path. Are we trying to create urgency by sending out CMAs? And do you feel bad about that? Hit me with your feedback.
I don't think we're trying to create urgency, but I do have to tell you that I've sent 6 out and I have 2 new listings.
Shut up.
Really?
Nice.
You shut up right now. I'm just saying.
Okay, what verbiage did you use?
Please show my tiny house.
I need to repeat that for emphasis. You've sent out 6 CMAs in our CMA.
6
contest,
CMAs and I have
and
2
you already
listings
have
right now.
2
Yeah.
new listings.
Oh.
Boy, that sucks.
I know.
Well, if that isn't motivation, I don't know what the heck is.
In December. You did. Impressive.
So. In one way. You know, I had to think about that because in chapter 4, we'll talk about it more. But part of what we have to do is help people define what they don't already know.
Yeah.
And so I wondered if anybody would feel like we were creating urgency. And I think maybe what we're doing is we've had some buyers or some sellers out there that don't know what they haven't defined themselves yet. And by sending that out, we're offering them the first step of what your definition is. So I didn't want anybody to feel bad about, I sent them out and, are we doing, I don't feel it's unethical at all. You have something to say? No. You're holding your microphone up.
No, I love how we preface, how you gave us the Merry Christmas. Just wanted to check in, see how things are going with your family and, making an excuse that it's a new tool. So it's just,
It is.
and we're looking for your feedback. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it is so soft, but it's still coming at them with a thing of value. What I'm doing is so I finally did the math and been in 9 years. So I finally was able to go back and shred 14 and 15 files. So what I did was, as I shredded them, the people that had moved out of the area were military that are in another country. Good. And then I had another pile of the people that are still in those houses. So those are my first CMAs. So I'm just going to work from backwards. And I am doing a better job now with staying in contact with my people than those earlier, which is dumb. So I am feeling really, yesterday, I only did 3 because I thought it started yesterday. And I was kind of thankful that I got voicemails on the other end because I hate talking to people.
Slide dial.
So, but I kind of did the whole dialogue on there. So, but
You use slide broadcast? What do you mean by slide dial?
Oh, it's an app where you call somebody and it doesn't ring. It goes straight to their voicemail.
Oh, I heard that slide broadcast. You can on slide broadcast, you can do that and you can hit lots of people at one time.
I
Instead
don't
of
know anything about that.
dialing them every time.
It's like if I had to call my aunt, I would slide dial her.
And I understand both of that. I would caution Lynn. If you broadcast a slide dial with a kind of generic message, you have to be very careful to still make it sound very personal.
Right, yeah.
Because you don't want it to say, hey there, I just saw your website the other day, because I get those all the time.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, when she said she saw slide dialed it, I was like, oh, you know about slide, but now you're gonna have to tell me what the app is.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Slide down.
Slide dial, okay.
That's what it's called.
Now, don't get me wrong. I really should, I want to connect with those people, but a couple of those, it was just going to be kind of an awkward conversation because it literally has been years since, I mean, they've received emails and stuff from me, but have I called them? I've been back, and this has been a good slap in the face to, I need to be a better steward of my past clients. So
It is
Well,
just slide dial.
Okay.
Slide down. Been around for, I don't know, 5 or
Long
6
time.
years. When did you start in the business, Sandra?
2000, I got licensed in
Microphone.
2013. Licensed in 2013. I sold my first house in 2014. So
So,
I sold-
so, and Tula, you've been around a long time. How,
2003?
2003, yeah.
Oh, so you've been through the,
So you've been through that
2008.
really good time, the
Oh,
bad time, the really good time, yeah.
you got an anniversary coming up, a big one. 20.
So 13 was kind of what I consider a very average year in real estate. You can go back 20 years and look at the numbers,
Mhm.
units.
Mhm.
And so still business was relatively easy, but they just didn't fall off the tree, you know. The last 2-3 years, they've been falling off the tree. So you've had to work a little harder. I will say one, I'm glad I don't sell life insurance. I'm
Oh
just
my
gonna get that
gosh,
out there.
yes, that's awful.
Or any of this stuff that he's trying to
Yeah,
sell.
steel
like-
buildings. Yeah.
But you know, when you gotta provide for your family,
You do.
and he bit the bullet and got back into what he loves, and now he's just killing it. So, you know, let's talk about renters real quick, because I don't want to spend everything on this chapter. I think the next chapter is good. If we go after renters, hi Cindy.
Oh,
You
there
can
she
sit- you can sit right, Mrs. Clyde.
She got the memo too.
You don't like Christmas, do you? Oh, my goodness.
There's a microphone for you. You know, let me ask you this question, because I think this goes to the core of, do you believe in your product or your business? Should renters be told the advantages of buying a home over renting? They've got a roof over their head, their needs are provided for.
Show them a graph.
well, they're paying a mortgage. They're just not paying their own. They're paying their landlords.
Yeah. And some people want that. They
Yeah.
don't want the responsibility of the house.
Right.
But some people say, no, I just don't know what I don't know. Is everybody in this room prepared to show a renter how it would be more advantageous?
Tell us what would that look like?
I don't know what that looks like. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, there are graphs, and for me, I'm a visual person. So, and going back to that Security First Title app, you know, they have got some amazing graphs, and you can just shoot it straight to Facebook. But, you know, here's if you rent, here's if you own. I mean, my boyfriend would never own a house again. He just didn't believe in it, and then he met a realtor. And it's like, how could you not want? I had to rent for 1 year, and my rent was, let's just say it was $1,000 a month. So at the end of that 1 year, there's $12,000, and if I walk away, I get zero. You know, whereas if I own, I'm probably gonna get 20,000 because of appreciation and, you know, So-
In this last year, you would have. for
just,
sure.
yeah, and graphs, look at Security First Titles app, because they've got really good ones too. But using graphs.
So, before we move on, I'm gonna, Ray, you can't see this graph, I'm sure, but since Cheryl likes graphs so much. Who in here? Let's see how I wanna phrase this. Do your buyers prefer text message, phone calls, emails? What do they prefer?
Depends on the buyer.
Everyone's different.
So if you've got a cold lead, you know nothing about them. Does your buyer prefer phone calls, emails, or text messages?
Yeah.
You have to ask them what their preferred method of communication is.
So you never,
They don't know your number, so they send you over to.
Voicemail.
I have a point to this, I promise.
I just want to say that I sent emails and emails and as well as voicemails to a prospect for a specific listing. And I thought that the personal phone call, personal visit. But then I finally emailed them and now I have a serious prospect.
So, well, let me ask you this. What's the average age of the home buyer in America these days?
25 to 35.
Average age?
I think it's 35.
I think it's older, yeah.
Oh, you guys
Yeah.
are in for a surprise.
You go, girl. Oh, my God. Okay, don't take that off.
All right, I'm gonna take it off. You're welcome.
It's on Facebook and it's
29 to what?
Thank you.
I said median age, average, actually it's median. The median home buyer all times 53 years old. right
Yeah,
now.
that's,
The repeat buyers are 59. Look at how the age has increased since 81, all the way through. First time buyers is 36 right now.
I agree.
So here's the problem. 36-year-olds, I'm going to make the assumption, most of them text incredibly. That, I know that's an assumption, but it's probably based on,
Sure.
empirical knowledge. I would not have guessed the 53 and the 59. And as a 66-year-old, I hate text messages. I do it because you guys like it.
Really?
Is that why you don't answer?
Elena, if you need to get a hold of Greg at like 9:30, send him an email. He will respond in like 30 seconds, more so than a text. Yes, that's his preferred method of communication.
I check my text messages. I take phone calls pretty readily. But these thumbs and text messages, and when I voice to text, everybody laughs. because,
Oh, yeah.
They come out hilarious sometimes. So I'm trying to say that some, hearing the ages that we got here, we need to keep in mind, sure, we know our warm spirit. But sometimes my warm spirit is what I remember 15 years ago, and I have to remember we've all aged. Just kind of keep in mind, phone calls are still very, very relevant. Yeah. And
Yes.
don't discount those. How's that for a graph, Cheryl?
That's awesome.
Right
Sherry,
now it's about right now it's about the age of the people for text message. Yeah, I like phone calls, text message, but I need to change my main to say, okay, text message, because it's young people, 25, something like that. They love
Yeah.
text message.
Yeah.
Well, and our job is to reach the others the way they want to be
Yeah,
reached,
yeah.
not how we
Exactly.
want to. So, yes, I answer text messages, but more often than not, I'll call you back.
To go back to Sherry's point of, the first time buyers are too busy paying off student debt, to buy a house. And I agree with that. But do you know why these median ages are going up so high? Do you know why? A lot of the experts around the country say that, you cannot spit and not hit a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a Menards. People are buying stuff and fixing up their homes. The average age of home ownership now for one home is over 10 years. It used to be 5 or 6. We would outgrow this
Right.
house and go buy another one. Now they just build stuff and make it work for them. So the median age, and I think that's going to keep happening.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I will say that even so, in the United States, we're still selling between 5 and 6, maybe 6.5 million homes a year. Those numbers aren't changing drastically. We had 2 really spike years. If you saw that graph I sent out in my email that went back 10 years, we're on par from what we normally do from October to November for a 10-year average.
But it feels so subpar.
Because of the last 2 years, and
Yeah.
that throws our,
Yeah.
I was just going to comment, a lot of those spikes are in areas that were unusually busy markets. So like 2010, we're coming out of the contraction of the economy, not to mention there was a bazillion foreclosures available that people were buying and fixing up to get a good deal. And then that 20 to 21 popping up like it did is because the interest rates were going up and everybody wanted to go ahead and make a move while they could still get a good rate.
And you notice if you look along here, I can tell you that going back to the eighties and all through here, the interest rates didn't make a whole lot of difference in most of those. They stayed pretty.
That's so weird.
So don't let those throw you off. Okay, let's move to chapter. I want to read two things. And then one from the chapter 2, 3, and then we'll move to 4. I loved his two comments where there were two options about how do I respond to a cold lead. Now, I will also say leads is a term that I'm not real with, but I understand the terminology. So, you know, can I send you a bunch of listings for somebody who has no idea what they're looking for? Or can I have a few minutes to talk to you about there is a process to this? You just don't find the house and start the process. At what point do you become, I'm going to start helping you to define and take you down the road you need to be? Did you read those two options?
I highlighted them and it reminded me of Lance. I'm sorry Lance couldn't be here, but that is so much a part of his process with all of his clients. You come into my office and we're going to discuss.
That's neat. That's a good thing.
And
Yeah.
obviously it works for him. Have you adopted that at all, Sandra?
Well,
Okay.
and I will also say it depends again on who it is. Read your client. If somebody from your sphere calls you up and says, I want to sell my house and buy a new one, do you need to teach them the process first, or have they been through it? If somebody calls about a house they drove by and saw the sign, how do you start probing? I'll be happy to show you a house. Where are you in the process? Have you been qualified by a lender yet? That's different than a pre-qual. Have you talked to a lender? Have you found out? Can I spend a few minutes seeing where you are? Might make more sense than I'll drive right over and open the door. Because you want to become that trusted advisor before you ever open the door,
You add value by.
which he gets into a lot.
But yeah.
Okay.
Can I interject there?
Absolutely.
So, last week I talked about getting a call on a listing, which thank God it's now under contract. And it was funny because the lady that texts me, the house wasn't going to be for her. It was going to be for her best friend. So she's like, can I? And so when I got and I told Lance, I said, I know this is going to be a waste of my time because they're going to be contingent. And I think I've got an offer coming in, but it's a potential. I think they have a home to sell. So I said, I'd just like to meet with them face to face. The poor lady that is going to be buying didn't even know that the showing was set up until her friend told her, oh, by the way, the realtor is going to go open the door. But I took that as an opportunity to meet face to face, to build some rapport with them. And now they're going to be using me to list their house and sell. So, you know, I knew I was just going to be opening a door, but it was my opportunity to tell my value.
That's amazing.
But
And I'm
but
lazy now.
sometimes that's not a bad thing to do. Each
Yeah.
situation calls on its own, but I'm sure that we all know there are realtors out there, particularly in the last couple of years, that all they did is I'll run right over and open the door for you. And that's all they did is say, I'm sorry, this house is already under contract. And they moved on to the next. I got an urgent buyer.
That's called a pop
How
art
are you
realtor.
going to make it now? The things are slowing down a bit. We keep them coming back to only us, and not every realtor has got a sign. Okay. Thankfully, my faith and ethics checked me into not tricking or lying to people to get them to buy a house. Boy, that reaches me to my core. I think if you screw people over, they figure it out and they don't use you again, or they don't recommend you. And I hate that. But I love this. It's a moment by moment, day by day, month by month, and year by year decision to keep those ethics going. I constantly struggled with choosing to put other people's interests above my own. We have an agency with our people, or we hope to. And when we have an agency, it's their interests. It isn't ours. And boy, do I know agents out there that do not see it that way. And I don't like that at all. to take it to an extreme, there's a real famous lawsuit I was reminded of yesterday, which I showed Elena. It's called Osterhaus.
Oh, yeah.
And it came out of Kansas City in 2008, and was where a real estate agent helped a seller hide a basement repair in the basement by sheetrocking over it and painting and putting it together and selling the house. The buyer found out, and the seller and the agent lost their butts time over and again for doing that. Our ethics are, it's got to be for everybody. Point one, your buyers don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
What don't they know?
They know
lot,
nothing. They just think
everything.
Microphone, a few things, say a few things. What don't they know?
They don't know the process. They don't know how important it is to be pre-qualified. They don't know how that fits into anything. Some of them think, well, why just go look at a house? And they, in their mind, I've been at the job for so long, my credit score, according to Credit Karma, is this. And they just don't know that whether they can qualify or not.
How many people walk into, say, I'm gonna live out east. And I want a 3-car garage. Okay, what else do you want? Well, I haven't thought much. Well, how can you freaking and show? Do you want your kitchen to be more modern or more traditional? You want a 2-story or not a 2-story? Do you want a big backyard or do you never want to mow again? You know, how often have they not gone through that minor checklist, much less the process of got to get a loan, what do points mean? What will my payment change if the interest rates go up? What are special taxes? How many people have never bought a home and have even heard of special taxes?
A lot if they're coming in from out. A lot if they're coming in from out of state.
I think there's only, what, 2 states that charge special. Nobody else does.
Well, and each area has their own little kind of area. Like in California, they've got a charge in Orange County called Mulan, which is sort of like our special taxes, but very concentrated on very certain areas that had, I mean, it's very strange. So you always have to teach them what they don't know yet. So how do you become the expert on that stuff? Sherry, how often have you gone through special taxes and figured out what they're going to be on each lot?
100.
Yeah.
Only because every lot is different in my subdivision. Although,
That's even worse.
oh yeah, it's a whole lot of fun.
Does everybody in the room know how special taxes are figured?
Does anybody in the room know how general taxes are figured on a new house? That's a fun one too, that most people do not know.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Okay. So general taxes are based on the purchase price of the house, the final purchase price of the house, times 0.115, which is the assessed value rate in this county of Sedgwick.
Sure.
Then you take that times the mill levy of that area that year, divide by 1,000, and that is your annual general taxes. And then you divide by 12, and that's what their monthly will be.
And that changes every year depending on
The mill levy.
Assessment.
Right, but the assessment's been pretty set for years and years and years. So, and it's pretty consistent around counties in the state. But then special taxes are so much fun because we pay general 6 months in arrear. When specials are approved, they don't go into effect for 3 years.
I did not know that.
So when mine were approved in 2021, they won't start being paid until the end of 2024. And then you pay the first January through June of 2024. It's not even spread on the lot until February of 2024, even though they've been approved. So it is a long process of getting those specials in place, and all future specials have gone to 20 years. And in my few remaining lots in Cheryl's Hollow, ours are 15.
So in general, here's what happens with special. The engineer puts out for bids all of the improvements in the area. It can be a sewer main, and the longer that sewer main is, the more money it costs. It's the local sewers, it's the water and the water mains, and they put the streets and all of the paving, the sidewalks, if they have sidewalks. And they put those out for bid, then once they're bid, they say, we've got to apply for a bond from the city. The city then approves the bond at whatever the current interest rate is, so it can go up and down. So you have all of these multiple factors going into it. And then if everything comes together, they say, here's the entire package. Your bond issue, your total cost, your annual interest, and so on. And we're going to divide it up per lot equally, most of the time. Sometimes they can say, these lots have sidewalks and these don't, so they get more.
This one's on a corner.
They can
Yeah.
say, we're gonna divide them up by the size of the lots rather than just the number of lots, and so each lot will vary. So if you move into a neighborhood brand new that doesn't have the specials yet, you can go for a couple of years before your payments suddenly go up a fair amount per
Okay.
month, and it shocks people.
By law, the builder has to give you an estimate.
Yes, I agree.
Now, I had a second phase in my subdivision where the estimates were all $3,200 too high. And the rate came down to 1.5 and they were estimated at 4%.
Oh, wow.
So my average 150 a month turned into $80.
Oh.
And boy, were they happy.
The other way with the interest rates
It
go
can
up.
go just the opposite direction.
But keep in mind, just because we give you an estimate does not mean that your bank is gonna withhold those amounts for a while. So this is, while we're giving you a long lesson here, you can see how complex the knowledge base is you need to have, because your buyers have no idea. Now, you can come to me, you can come to Sherry, and other people have done new homes, so we can help you with these things if you get into that. But the point is, even understanding the process of how specials are something most other real estate agents, you guys have been in the business for a long time. And many of you are going, wow, I had no idea, and that's okay. Become the expert in your field.
Well, and they don't have any idea what they're signing. So we
They
have to,
don't-
they don't have any idea of what they're signing.
Oh, exactly.
So I had a new build and same, I have them sign everything. I sign the covenants, I sign the HOA, all that, everything, sign everything. So they signed that their estimate for their specials. And then 2 years later, they said, we didn't know we were going to have specials. And I said, yeah, you did.
Yep.
But they don't know what they're signing or they don't remember, or
They're taking in a lot of information very quickly. So,
So
but yes, it's all documented.
let's even get to a little bit more basic, the purchase contract. Do a lot of you just kind of, here's contract sign here, here, and here, and I'll take care of it?
No.
Do you give them a contract beforehand so they can read it in depth?
Sometimes.
Do you explain it to them, just in case they don't?
I require a 2-hour window for a contract signing appointment with my buyers because there is too much information. I want to go over all of it and make sure they understand or have a clue.
Okay, so I'm a little more flippant, so you have to use your personality. Brenda explains a contract in much more depth. She will go 45 minutes to go through each paragraph. But when I used to sit with a client, I'd say, this is who, this is what, and this is how much. Everything else is how you get out of the contract. Then I said, but let's go through that a little bit more carefully. We said the interest rate would be this. We said the house is appraised. You get a chance to do an inspection and so forth. But you have to come up with some way. Do not let your client sign a contract, even if they reviewed it. And if they have reviewed it, then say, do you have any questions about this? Should we go over it real quick? Because this is very important committed legal document. You have to be the expert in this. Is it bad to give them a contract before you go out and start looking?
Not at all.
Do people do that routinely, or do you
Wouldn't be bad to have it in your, in, in your
presentation?
package, your presentation package,
Because you have to be the
expert, and I would do that for a seller and a buyer.
You know, one of the things that he wrote in there is about how many people would change program to program to program to find good leads.
Zillow, realtor.com.
Why Lupo, what is it, Boomtown, you know, you name it, and people will go through that. And you and I had a conversation about some of these. And he did get off the expense of those, kind of like, so you have to evaluate those. And this book has probably helped me change my outlook a little bit on how I would do that. I want to make sure my advice is clear. I'm not telling anyone they shouldn't do a lead type program. I would tell people that you are going to be silly to ignore your current SOI and spend all your time on a lead type program. I think lead type programs are good, but they should complement your SOI. They should be people you add to your SOI. And then I like his analogy of where are they in the sales process. And in general, somebody who's early on in the sales process is surfing around the internet because they don't know what else to do. How many people here bought a car off the internet? Okay. How many people here have been in the car business previously? How many people know how to buy a car off the internet? I used to be a mechanic. I used to work at a dealership. That's what I did in one of my lifetimes a long time ago. Don't want to do that anymore. But I know what to ask. I know what to look for. I know what to see. If you don't know, do you really want to go blind? But how many people have shopped on the internet for a car, wanting to know what the price is or what the.
Totally.
Of course you have, because you don't know what else to do. That's what your home buyer's doing. They don't know what the prices are. They don't know what the define is. They don't know what they qualify for. They don't even know what they're looking for other than they got on the internet. So realize where they are in the journey versus where a referral that comes to Cheryl because their Aunt Martha said, I know a good realtor, and Cheryl will help you find the house you're looking for. Well, great. They're already looking. They've already started. So keep that in mind. What's your value in real estate? Boy, I shut everybody up.
We're a teacher. I mean, we're a teacher for these people. I mean, even people who have lots of experience buying or selling, they haven't done it this year, you know. Everybody needs that.
You mean you have more value than opening the door?
So far,
I'm a tour guide.
But shouldn't you be more than a tour guide?
I think we need to be a trusted advisor.
I love trusted advisor. I love that he says, teach them, help them find what they don't know yet, help them define what they're looking for.
Well, and they don't even know yet. You know, a lot of times, I mean, how many times have we had somebody say, I absolutely don't want a 2-story. And then we get that phone call that, hey, I just went through an open house. It's a 2-story. I want it.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of times they don't know yet, you know, and we have to have that skill of asking the questions that make them think, or at least become aware of what's out there.
So so if I see somebody who's renting a house, it's my obligation. to teach them.
Yeah.
It's my obligation to teach them that they don't want to be renting.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
my obligation to help them build their own wealth.
His-
It's my obligation to show them that they will earn money instead of lose money.
His point on page 39 on option 2, the option you were talking about, is such a soft way to create your own value. It's like, before you get too far down the road, I know you're not ready to buy now, but there are a couple things I'd like to go over with you, let you know that here's what's going on in today's market kind of thing, and you're not shoving anything down anybody's throat. And it is a skill of asking the right questions, and getting them to talk and open up. So I think that option 2 on number
What?
39 is, man, that's gold. If I could have learned that a long time ago, because I was one of those people. Oh, you don't want to buy now? Okay, thanks. Bye. This is masterful.
Well-
And then you keep these people and you farm them, you send them stuff, you love on them until they are ready to
Well,
make that.
And I have a simile to that occurred to me. I loved what he said of, no, I'm just looking.
Mhm.
Kind of like I walk in the store, no, I'm just looking.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm looking because I don't know where I'm looking.
Yeah.
Now, this is a true story. More often than not, when I walk into a Lowe's or a Home Depot, I have stopped asking people where something is. Because it seems like I always get that guy who says, I think they're on there, maybe. I'm not really sure. Let me call somebody else. And then I feel like I'm obligated to stand there while they call people. You know what I'm saying? So I think we as a society have kind of gotten to the, no, I'm just looking
Mhm.
phase. And we have to figure out that next step. In FISBO sales technology, I've learned this from Brenda and other people. When I see a for sale by owner sign, I really think it says help wanted, I need a realtor. I kind of think that now.
It says I'm cheap, but I need a realtor.
I'm cheap, but I need a realtor. If somebody walks through your open house and I'm just looking. What's the next question? How do we take them to, I know looking's hard. Where have you looked? I don't want to ask a question like, what are you looking for? Because they don't know. Where have you looked? Have you been to other open houses a lot? Is this your first weekend out? Is this have you been out a lot? Have you been to new homes? Have you been to only, what made you stop today? Were you just driving by? Questions that might take them into more open-ended questions. A couple of, I loved open houses. A couple of weeks ago, they had a thing at the Real Producers, and I won't get deep in this story. But they had a hostage negotiator who works for WPD. And on one of his first calls as a policeman, he went up, heard that there was somebody broke into a parking garage. And he got up there and somebody was sitting on the ledge saying, I'm thinking about jumping off. He's the only person there. He's never done this before. And he said, so looking at all you in the crowd, what would be the first question I should ask?
Can I sit down?
And we went round and round and round.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said that was very important to me, I think others took it too, was you don't ask any question that can be yes, no. Because if they say no, you've lost it. You should always ask questions that tend to open them up a little bit.
Open-ended.
Or gets more information out of. And I don't want to go too deep in that, but think about your question. Somebody comes in, I'm just looking. What's your next question? Be prepared before you get there. We've talked about be the resource. Do you guys have anything you want to throw in there a little bit? Keeping track of time.
I guess I might suggest going back to those days when these interest rates we have today were the new low interest rates. However, the benefit of home ownership is building your own equity. And part of that is that you can write off the interest and the general taxes and the interest on the special taxes. And now that they've doubled the standard deduction, that became even more difficult to achieve when rates were so low. It really didn't give you any benefit other than the equity accrual. But now we're getting to where that interest makes a difference, and it's going to extend above their standard deduction and give them additional write-offs. So remember to use that, because we haven't needed to use it for a while, many, many years now.
Well, there's a couple of things he said in there too that I liked. He said, you know, it's real easy for me to get on a soapbox. 10 minutes later, he says, then I've just vomited all this information.
Yeah.
on you."
Word vomit, yeah.
Did you understand it? Did you have some questions that maybe I missed through there? But I like this comment. If they're just looking, offering to send them listings may not be the proper thing to do. Maybe the process is about it. Now, if they're looking and they can't find what they're looking for, maybe that's when you send them a listing or two. Because I have resources you don't have. I have things you can't see. But just to say I'm looking and I'll send you some listings and call me if you want anything, I don't think that's the right approach. Anybody else wanna? How many people in here have made a plan and then forgot about it a week later?
Yeah. New Year's.
How many people know people that make plans and forget about it a month later? Some engineers actually make a plan.
And spreadsheet. Remember that the comeback to, oh, that payment is so high is, but this much is a deduction. So it's like a little savings account that you get back every year. Not only the accrual of an increase of equity in your home.
That payment is high and it equals the rent you're paying. When you move out of your apartment, how much do you get back?
And you don't get a little bonus on your taxes every year.
And if you want a paint, you know, a wall on your apartment, do you have to ask permission, or in your house, can you just paint it because it's yours? If you want to put up a fence because you don't want anybody else looking from your deck to their deck, I mean, things like that. The last,
Maybe,
the la-
hypothetically.
the last one I want to hit, and then we'll call it because it's, you know, almost. Find your 5%. Did that number shock anybody?
Not at all. So when someone blows you off, hangs up, shuts you down, great, you're closer to that 5%.
Did you read that analogy about panning for gold?
Yes.
All the water that goes through the pan to get one little nugget. That one little nugget and water has been poured over it. I kind of like that because each, you know, new pan of water gets me that much closer to
The gold.
And those are real numbers. If you only work internet leads, we're not talking referral business. If you convert 5% of them over a 6-month period, you're doing pretty good. So that means every month you need to talk to 100 people to get 5 people that are going to do business with you in this next 6 months. And that's not bad. It can be frustrating, as Cheryl said. You're not ready now. Well, I'm moving on. I can't do that. You got to keep them in your sphere, in your drip, in your contact.
Oh, I love that book. It's like $8 on Amazon, and
not very thick either.
I teach that book. It's in my class. That's awesome.
What is it?
Go for no.
There's a quick YouTube video that I found years ago, and I've sent out several times. I don't know when I've done it yet. And it's talking about the value of a no. And it basically comes down to Anytime somebody tells you no, what they're really saying is not yet.
Yeah.
I'm not ready at this moment. You haven't caught me when I'm ready to make that decision. So a no is not personal at all. It's not about you. It's about where they are. And sometimes where they are is they don't know what they don't know yet. Any other comments on the last two chapters?
On page 48,
Yes.
in the first full paragraph, don't trust their opinion of your worth because you're the expert, not them. And that was just like this beautiful, I heard angels sing. I mean, one of the things that I tell people is that a seller will not have a problem paying your outrageous brokerage fee if they understand the value of your brokerage fee. They'll want to give you more money. You know, if they understand everything you're going to do for that brokerage fee, they will not have a problem paying it. So really being clear with your value, you know, whether it is on staging or educating or negotiating, you know, there's so much. And you start adding what that stuff is worth, they're going to be thrilled to pay your brokerage fee.
Or at least they won't argue with it. I agree. So I guess for me, I think everybody ought to, I like what he said. He went back and read chapter 4 himself over and over again,
Lots
and
of
he wrote it.
times. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but a lot of it comes down to how do you value yourself, and have you really become an expert in your chosen profession? If you haven't, then let's start working on getting you to be an expert. I once had a real estate agent who listed everything at 0.5%. And you know, if you want to adjust your commission a little bit because somebody's done a lot of business with you and so on. So why are you doing it at 0.5%? Oh, because I really don't I don't do much. There's just, I don't feel good about my listing. Well, then let's work on your value.
That makes me want to throw up. That's so bad. Oh
Because
my goodness.
of what we do
Yeah.
and the problems that we solve for people. Okay, so next week, I think let's go just with, do you want to do 1 chapter or 2 chapters again?
Let's do 4 again and then maybe 5
4 and 5.
because there's
again.
so much in 4.
4 and 5 again. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And let's get ready for lunch.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Ray.
Bye, Ray.
Bye.
You were awful quiet.
Good stuff. Thank you for sharing.
You're missing lunch, dummy.